Start reviewing siman Reish Samach Gimel. Started yesterday, but I just want to do it again from the beginning because we went on a lot of rants yesterday. Want to get on one flow from the beginning. Sif Aleph. Why do we light Shabbos candles? So there's numerous reasons. Shalom bayis, peace in the house. Because if it's dark, then you're gonna trip. You won't be able to see and fall, hurt yourself. That's not gonna be peace in the house. This even applies to someone who's living by themselves. Reason two, Oneg Shabbos. Basic idea is that you're going to get more pleasure when you eat with lights on because if you're going to eat in the dark, you won't get satiated. According to this, lighting has to do with eating and drinking. Number two. Number three, honoring Shabbos, covered Shabbos. And number four is to commemorate this idea that the first Shabbos was completely light when the world was created. There was all light, even at night. We commemorate that by lighting. Four reasons. What does make a nice candle mean? Ner yafa. Make a ner yafa, a nice candle. So this means you have good olive oil that you use, good wicks. And the Gemara says, "Haragul b'ner havayin banin tamid chamim." You're careful with lighting. You're going to have children who are going to become scholars. It's a whole discussion what that means. So talking about Shabbos, Yom Tov, Chanukah, a lot of explanations on that. So the Bach explains, even though we're obligated to light, nevertheless, by beautifying the mitzvah, performing it better, that we're not obligated in from the letter of the law. And therefore, if you do so, you'll have children who become scholars. How many do we have? Well-known idea that you add per kid an additional nair. However, the truth of the matter is that the two neiros that a person has correspond to the positive and negative mitzvahs of Shabbos, echad keneged zachar, echad keneged shamar. That's the general idea. Later on, the Ali Rab and others relate that the custom became to add per person. We explained the gematria of Ner is 250 times 2 is 500, which is equivalent to the limbs in a male and female, 248 plus 252 for a female. Also the gematria of Puravu. Maybe Makute Maharich explains that since we learned that if you're careful, with Nair you're going to have scholars, the custom developed to increase one Nair per child, per birth. And this way you'll merit children who become scholars. Does a woman who forgot to light need to add another candle? General halacha is that yes. A woman forgot to light one, she has to add for the rest of her life. There's a discussion according to the Prima Gadim, even if she forgot just one nair, she has to add. Ber halacha argues and says, no, you don't need to. So whole discussion exactly the reason for this halacha. Either the Bach explains we don't want this to happen again, so we're penalizing her, fining her so that she won't do this again, or to atone for how she messed up. There are many exceptions to this halacha that you wouldn't need to add. Included in them is that she had extenuating circumstance. Magen Avram says she doesn't need to add another, which is a major discussion exactly what is considered an extenuating circumstance. Exception number two, that someone who's poor could be lenient and add extra oil or light a bigger candle. Exception number three, a woman who forgot to light in her mother's house and her mother lit would not need to add another candle. Right? So this even applies if she was sleeping in her own house. So if someone else lit where she was eating, she wouldn't need to. Exception number four, a woman who forgot to light candles on Yom Tov. Yom Tov, she would not need to add another, according to some others argue. Exception number five, if when she lit, it was extinguished immediately after being lit in an unexpected manner, then she wouldn't need to light another one. If it was expected, that's not halakha is a mitzvah, and then that would be an issue, of course. Exception number six, someone who didn't light because she was sick doesn't need to add another one. Exception number seven, if there was an alarm clock failure, if she made an alarm clock and she didn't, she doesn't need to light again. Exception number eight, She didn't like because she was stuck in unexpected traffic. She doesn't need to add another candle. So it's only if it's unexpected traffic. Exception number 9, someone whose candles fell after lighting, she doesn't need to add another one. That's similar to what we saw before. Exception number 10, this only applies to women, not men. Exception number 11, if she forgot the first Shabbos she was married, she doesn't need to add another one. Exception number 12, if she isn't married, someone who isn't married and forgot the light does not need to add another one, such as a male. Exception number, which is similar to before. Exception number 13, if she wasn't home for Shabbos and her husband forgot to light, he doesn't need to add another one. Some of these are repetitious. Exception number 14, if she forgot to light actual candles but lit an incandescent bulb and had in mind that it would count in honor of Shabbos, after Plaga Mincha, she doesn't need to light another candle. Lastly, exception number 15, someone who forgot to light but remembered after sunset and asked someone who isn't Jewish to light doesn't need to add another one. So it's before 3 stars come out.
We brought up we brought up Yontif at all or no?
Yeah, you brought that up.
So what time do you have to light by on Yontif?
Right over here. Reason number 4. There's a discussion about that. Probably if she lit before, I'd assume to say dawn.
Yeah.
Yep. This is new. Everything we just did in the last 8 minutes or so is what we did yesterday, but much condensed version. Where should we light? The Magen Avram says that we should light candles in any room that we will go. Shevet HaLevi says that this lighting isn't from the letter of the law. It's a way to beautify the mitzvah because the candles were already lit where one ate. Furthermore, one doesn't need to light candles in other rooms if the electric lights are on. This is sheds light on 2 very crucial points. Number 1 is that we should light where we eat. It's referring to if we're sleeping there also. We're going to cover if we're not sleeping there, what do you do if you're eating out? And number 2 is the major topic of electricity. Why do we need to light nowadays if we have electricity? All right, so we're going to come back to that later. If we analyze the reasons why we light now, why we need to light, like we discussed, seemingly they're all covered, all 4 of those reasons. Maybe not the 4th, but that's not the general reason that's a reason based on drush and a chiddush. It's an insight, that reason. Miscellaneous matters pertaining to Sif Aleph. Prisha quotes the Rambam, who says that one is obligated to knock on people's doors and ask for money in order to afford Shabbos candles. So this is actually a whole discussion because we learned in Hilchos Chanukah, I think it was in Tafrei Shayin Ches, 680. 678, Siman 678, that the halacha is if a person could only afford Ner Shabbos and Ner Chanukah, the halacha is you go for what?
Ner Shabbos.
So Ner Shabbos, because of Presumei Nisa. But there's a halacha
Ner Hanukkah.
Ner
Ner
Hanukkah.
Shabbos.
Oh, so it's
Shabbos.
showing bias, showing
It's
bias.
bias. Ner Shabbos comes first. But there's a well-known halacha in Hilchos Chanukah that you have to sell your clothing in order to afford Ner Chanukah. So the question is, if you sold your clothing for Ner Chanukah, but now you have to purchase Ner Shabbos first, and you don't have to sell your clothing for Shabbos, how does that work? So there's a shita, there's an opinion, I think it was the Prima Gadan that the Ber Halacha quotes, either in this siman or the next siman, that first of all, you see from this Rambam, you have to knock on people's doors to ask for money in order to afford the candles, but there's a Prima Gadan who says you do need to sell even for Shabbos. So that answers that question. Easy answer. We dealt with other answers when we learned that over there. Eliezuta quotes the Shloah and the Mate Moshe, who says that women should pray when they light candles that the children should become scholars. This is based on what we just said before. It's an auspicious time. Piskei Teshuvos relates that we shouldn't directly throw leftover wicks and oils into the garbage. We should burn them during Sfiros Chametz or Lag BaOmer. Serefos Chametz, sorry. When we burn the chametz or on Lag BaOmer, I really haven't seen anyone do this, but such a custom. There's a custom to give charity for lighting the Shabbos candles. Stucco has to be before. Women has to be careful not to move the stucco box after lighting candles. Very important. You could easily mess up with this. Sif Beis, are lighting Shabbos candles more important than challah and wine? This is one of the examples of by giving how it's incredibly dangerous just to learn Gemara, and come out with a halachic conclusion. If you're just learning the Gemara, Rashi, Taisus, it's dangerous. You can't come out with a halachic conclusion. And one of the proofs I like giving is this halacha. Person who learns that Gemara and Shabbos that we just quoted will think that Shabbos comes before everything if you can't afford anything. But it's not true. Challah definitely comes first, for example. Let's learn about this. So Shulchan Aruch says that men and women are obligated to have a candle lit in their house on Shabbos. Okay? Even if they don't have food to eat, meaning they get supported from charity, they're obligated to knock on people's doors to get money to buy oil and light the candle. Just put a focus on candle, not candles. It's on purpose. This is included in Oneg Shabbos, and the reason is because from the letter of the law, you need is one candle. Magen Avraham explains there's only an obligation, here it is, to purchase one candle. This candle even comes before purchasing other food. Pri Megadim rules that one would be obligated to sell his clothing to buy a candle. There it is. The Pri Megadim. Be'er Halacha made it a little famous. Achas Shekel and Be'er Halacha rule this way as well. Okay? So anyone who comes up with you with this riddle, so to say, this Hanukkah riddle, you have an easy answer. What are you talking about? It's a Pri Megadim. Say Pri Megadim, what are you talking about? That's not Hilchos Hanukkah. You're right. That's why you have to learn some in Reish Al Gimel. It's in Hilchos Hanukkah. It's in Hilchos Shabbos, excuse me, and you're asking a question pertaining to Hilchos Shabbos. You have to learn not just Hilchos Hanukkah, also Hilchos Shabbos. Mishnah Berurah rules that someone with a limited amount of money must first purchase bread / challah and then Shabbos candle. Again, this is the example that I like using, as it's dangerous just to learn Gemara and come up with a halachic conclusion, because if you learn this Gemara, it will not cross your mind that challah comes before everything if you can only afford certain items. And that is in fact the halach at the end of the day. It's related over here in Hilchos Shabbos as well as in Hilchos Chanukah over there. He only needs to buy one candle as stated above. The reason for this is we'll have food to eat and fulfill the mitzvah of Kiddush with this bread. In other words, the challah covers, it's really a triple play, maybe even perhaps a grand slam, because it covers your obligation of Kiddush. It could count as wine, as we learned in Hilchos Kiddush. It covers your obligation of having food. You have to have food because challah is food. It covers your obligation of challah, hamotzi, lechem, mishnah. I mean, it covers a tremendous amount. That's why challah is number one. It's a super duper easy way to remember the challah is number one because it just covers so much. It's like a universal situation. It's yeah. Remember we had this game once. It was like something like soccer. It was a mixture of like
All right,
soccer and
let's
football.
go.
It's called the rover position. It's like offense and defense at the same time, right? Plays both. That's the idea. Like a center in hockey, he comes back for defense. That's what challah is. It's everything. Even though women physically light the Shabbos candles, nevertheless, Shevet Alevi explains that the obligation to purchase the candles is placed upon the men. Now, what does that mean practically? Thus, if they don't have the means to purchase Shabbos candles, the man must go around collecting. This means that it's the obligation to get the nair over there, to purchase it, is placed upon the man. This should be the place to point out, and we'll come again on the next sif, that the man should set up the oil and the wicks for Shabbos, and we'll learn about that more in the next sif, if I'm not mistaken. Already quoted it a dozen times over the years, so Rabbi Akiva Eiger Diak, based on the Tikkun Zohar. We'll come back to the next sif. Pirkei Teshuvos relates that nowadays that we have electricity, there's no concern of needing to light the Shabbos candles in order that we don't trip and stumble. We're no longer obligated to go around people's doors collecting money in order to buy Shabbos candles. Thus, someone who has limited money would use his money to purchase challah and wine before Shabbos candles. In other words, in the time of the Gemara, Shabbos candles, the expense if you could only afford some, would be on the Ner Shabbos, before the yayin, before that wine. Nowadays, it could be opposite. The wine will come first because we have electricity. So a lot of and that's the question begs to be asked, which will cover why do we light nowadays and how can we even recite a bracha when we light? Because we have electricity. What's the purpose of lighting? You're going to say a bracha just for an ambiance, so to say? So you have to delve into that more. It should be pointed out the reason why it says to purchase challah and wine before Shabbos candles, even though challah always comes first no matter what, it's just to say because it would just come first just to point it out. But granted, challah would always come first, whether it's the times of no electricity or nowadays when we do have electricity. In a pressing situation, one can fulfill his obligation of Shabbos candles by turning on the lights. Now, this also is dangerous, and that's why I'm going to add in parentheses, incandescent lights, because we do not recite a bracha on LED or fluorescent, which nowadays most lights that are out there are LED and are fluorescent, and you have to be careful. And people who never did a deep dive on this topic don't exactly understand the difference. The difference is very simple. If you look at an incandescent light bulb, there's something called a filament, and that basically has coils. It looks like antennas, and that is basically instead of wicks, and therefore it's more akin to actual wicks and lighting, and therefore one is able to recite a bracha on it, unlike LED and fluorescent, which is totally different situation. There's actually an argument among the poskim if one is allowed to recite the bracha of a hadlik ner shel Shabbos on electric lights. Those who forbid using electric lights for Shabbos candles hold that just like one cannot recite a bracha after lighting a log in honor of Shabbos, because wicks and oil are necessary. Because wicks and oil are necessary, so too electricity isn't good either. There are many other reasons. Logic behind those who permit this, who permit lighting electricity for Shabbos candles, if there are no actual candles. The logic behind those who permit lighting electricity for Shabbos candles, if there are no actual candles, is the bulb is similar to a wick, and the electric flow is similar to the oil. Like we said, the coils on the incandescent bulb are similar to a wick, and the electric flow, the currents that go through are similar to the oil, producing and enabling the wick to continue to be aflame. Within those who permit this, some allow any light, while others prohibit fluorescent lights, fluorescent and LED. There are many other reasons why it would be permissible. Since there are many different opinions, one should execute all tactics to find minimally one candle to light in honor of Shabbos. And the general halacha is nowadays that we do not say a bracha on LED and fluorescent, which we'll learn about more again in the next siman Reish Shamach Daled, even though we already covered it in Hilchos Havdalah. And Hilchos Chanukah we didn't cover yet. I think it was just Hilchos Havdalah that we covered it, yeah. Here's a summary of the order: challah / bread, wine for Kiddush, and the reason why it's wine for Kiddush as number 2 and not Shabbos candles, first, like the Gemara says, is because we have electricity. Then Shabbos candles, and then category number 4 is other food. And remember, you're going to already have some food with the challah. That's why challah is totally number 1. Okay, Sif Gimel. Sif Gimel. Why do women, not men, light Shabbos candles? Around a week or two ago, we learned Siman Tafrei Shai and Hey over here, 675, and we learned about the explanation of the Shilos and Shuvas Ola Shmuel. The Ola Shmuel, which became made famous by the Mishnah Brew over there, says Noshim Tefelos. When it comes to Hanukkah, women are considered secondary, so to say, and they don't light. It's a different reason on top of Yishtu Kagufel, your wife is like yourself, and we did a deep dive analysis over there on that topic. And I'm sure that any feminist didn't like that presentation over there. But over here, the feminists are going to love this. Because we said over there, this mitzvah is all about them. The chauvinists aren't going to like this halacha. Because the women are the one who carries the mantle on Shabbos. Women light Shabbos candle. Everyone agrees. There's no movements out there that the men try to light, to my understanding. Why? Why do women light? Why not men? Hanukkah, we discussed why it's in the men's field. Women for sure are obligated in Hilchos Hanukkah. We light on their behalf. Men are certainly obligated in Hilchos Ner Shabbos, but women light on our behalf. Why? Torah says that someone who can't afford Shabbos candle and Shabbos candle should purchase Shabbos candle. Someone who can't purchase Shabbos candle and wine for Kiddush should purchase Shabbos candle because of Shalom Bayis. No peace in the house without a candle. We said nowadays that could be flipped around. The only reason why the Torah over here is mentioned in Siv Gimel, when really it should be in Siv Beis, is because this is where the Torah says his comments, but everything else before was Siv Beis. Should really be earlier, but okay. Torah explains that men and women, here we go, have an equal obligation with Shabbos candles, but the mitzvah of lighting Shabbos candles was given over to the women. There's several reasons for this. The Medrash relates that Chava extinguished the candle of the world, aka Adam Harishon. Mankind would have been immortal had the sin not have occurred. We would have never died. Everyone would have been here. All the people who we love that are no longer here, they'd still be alive. We've had great grandparents, etc. Tava brought death into this world. The Rambam explains that women are in the house more and more involved with house-related matters. Two reasons why women light. Number one, to fix the original mess up of Chava, who extinguished the candle of the world, so to say. Adam Arishon, the candle of the world. Neiru Shalom. She brought death, darkness into the world. Now she has to bring light. Reason number two. Reason number two is the Rambam. Rambam says that they're in the house more. Therefore, lighting on Shabbos is a house-related activity. Therefore, women would light. Bach explains that the husband may not light even if he wants to. He's not allowed to. She will light and with the beracha. Mishnah Berurah says that if there are a lot of candles, he may also light. Also, Hadar Mishnah Berurah points out that the woman should light the candle where they will be eating, since that is the place to light from the letter of the law. Furthermore, the wife should recite the beracha. In other words, she gets the good real estate, so to say. This is her mitzvah. And therefore, if you want to light additional candles in other rooms, you can do it. But there's only one beracha that's said on a house. That's the woman. And there's only the best place to light. There's only one best place to light. That's where you eat, and that's the woman. Magen Avraham says that the husband should light the first Shabbos after a woman gives birth. It is implied that when she is a nida, she should light. Hadar Mishnah Berurah explains that she is unable to light after giving birth because she's weak. Or if she's able to light, then she should. That's why nowadays this halacha isn't so relevant, because the giving birth, not that I could say from personal experience, but isha kegufo, so to say. I always joke about that. Wife says, you don't joke about that. But okay. I joke about it anyways. But so the idea is that usually they could light, because it's a quick process. They get you out of there within 48 hours. They get you out of the hospital. Pretty quick nowadays. Not like the weeks it would take with all the technology that they have, etc. So epidurals, etc. that are used makes it walk in the park. Not a walk in the park, but more towards a walk in the park than in the Aldehyde. Much.
I hope women aren't listening.
Yeah. It makes it makes it significantly easier. Makes it, and it's a lot less time. It's still obviously recovery on the body, but that's why nowadays most of the time this happens. But husbands have to become aware of this. It's incredibly important that a person should put this in the front of their mind. Be very cognizant and aware of this, that there's a lot going on when a person's wife gives birth, especially if there's a lot of children. There's always a lot to juggle with. There's always a lot to do, figure out who's gonna do this, who's gonna do that, and a lot of times it could be forgotten to light for Shabbos, and you have to light for Shabbos. So the question becomes, what do you do in a hospital? Because a lot of times they don't allow fire. I would assume that most times they don't allow anything. Even I think a small little light. It's hospital policy. They'll kick you out.
Yeah, yeah.
They'll kick you out. So that's when you have to come onto the incandescent light bulb, and that's why I would highly recommend, if you see that your wife's due date is around the Shabbos time, you go on Amazon and type in the following: incandescent light bulb flashlight. Flashlight with an incandescent bulb. Type that in, and you will see that there will be flashlights that do have incandescent bulbs. Order it. It's around $6, and that's your Shabbos. That's what you could do, right? And you say a bracha on that because we said the coils. Magen Avraham and Mishnah Berurah say that the husband should fix the candles. Here it is. This is what we alluded to before. Ozva Hada Mishnah Berurah explains that this means that the husband should prepare the wicks in the oil. If she is lighting candles, he should set up the candles. Where does this come from? Mishnah in the second parak Shabbos says that the women could die during childbirth if they weren't careful with the following. Al shloisha averos nashim mesos b'shas lidasin. Al sheinen zehiros benido b'chalo b'hadlakas hanef. Women weren't careful with the following three mitzvahs. So that could be a problem. If they weren't careful with nida, chala, and lighting of the candle. Chas v'shalom, it could lead to their death. So the obvious question is, the Mishnah should have said nida, chala, and ner. Or the Mishnah should have said, like hilchos nida, hafrashas chala, and habakas and ner. Why specifically is there a verb? That's the word. Why is there a verb before ner? Lighting. Rabbi Akiva Eger answers based on the Tekuni Zohar, because specifically the lighting is done by the woman. However, that's the hadlakas done by the woman, but the hachana, the preparing of the ner, of the oil, of the wicks, that's done by the husband. Says over here, the husband should fix the candles. The lashon of the Mishnah Berurah, the Mishnah Berurah uses the language is tov sha'ish yiskenes aner, if I'm not mistaken. It's good that the husband should fix the candles. It's good. I said should. Should, it's good. Magen Avraham says that someone blind would say the bracha on Shabbos candles. Nevertheless, if she's married, her husband should recite the bracha. There's an argument if the husband lit the candles before his wife, if he has to compensate her 10 zehuvim, it seems like he would.
Wow.
Yeah. So this is certainly something to contend with over here. Sifhei is a lot longer. I don't want to start Sifhei now and rush through it. Any questions, comments on anything that we did today whatsoever?
I think so, no.
Okay, so the plan is, someone yesterday just helped me out with a certain technology that enables combining videos together. So I'm gonna
Cool.
wait for this, combine it with the next one, and then I'm gonna put the whole thing up, get the whole summary in one. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do.
Okay.
I'd rather do it like that than part one, part two, part three, part four, part five. I just want to get it just one, and then we'll get the part two on the second half of the seminar, all right?
Sometimes people are if you have a shorter summer, then people are more likely to
Yeah,
look
but
at
once you
no.
start getting part four, five, six, people, no one's interested. No one's
Yeah.
interested. I'd rather just do this in one. We're gonna pick it up from where we left off last time. We're reviewing now. We're up to Sif Hey and Siman Reish Tamach Gimel. Halachos of lighting on Shabbos. Discuss the Nusach HaBracha. The text of the bracha, the Shulchan Aruch says that when someone lights the Shabbos candles, he or she should say Bracha ta Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu zahav lahadlik ner shel Shabbos. This applies to men and women equally. A lot of people don't realize men have an equal obligation in lighting on Shabbos. It's just that the women do the lighting on our behalf, unless the person is not married. On Yom Tov, one should say Bracha ta Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu zahav lahadlik ner shel Yom Tov. That's the text of Shabbos and of Yom Tov. Mishnah Berurah rules that if Yom Tov falls out on Shabbos, one should say Shabbos and Yom Tov. All right, so you do it together in one bracha. Someone who made a mistake and who said Lahadlik Ner Shel Yom Tov on Yom Kippur would still fulfill her obligation. However, someone who said Lahadlik Ner Shel Shabbos on Yom Kippur or on Yom Tov itself would also still fulfill her obligation. So if you messed up, you would be good. If you said Lahadlik Ner Shel Yom Tov on Yom Kippur or Lahadlik Ner Shel Shabbos on Yom Kippur or on Yom Tov, you're good. However, if someone said Lahadlik Ner Shel Yom Tov on Shabbos, would not fulfill her obligation. So that would not be good. You can't say Lahadlik Ner Shel Yom Tov on Shabbos. If it's still before sunset, you should return and stand by the candles, cover your eyes, and recite the bracha again, and then look at the candles. Lighting on Yom Kippur, Shulchan Aruch says that when Yom Kippur doesn't fall out on Shabbos, some say that a bracha should not be made. Most people aren't even aware that this opinion exists, when this is not only a legitimate opinion, but it's in the Shulchan Aruch itself. That perhaps there wouldn't even be a bracha at all on Yom Kippur. Some say you don't even need to light, and we discussed in depth when we learned Sifhei the reasons for this. Ramah says to look at siman 610, Tafresh Yud. It says there that we do, in fact, say a bracha on Yom Kippur. The big discussion over here is, why do women cover their eyes when they light? So first of all women don't do this. Plenty of Sephardi women who don't. This comes from a Ramah, which we learned. The Ramah says that some say that one should make the bracha before lighting, while others say that one should recite the bracha after lighting. So there's a whole discussion when you recite the bracha. In order that it will be considered over Las Yasin, which means that the bracha is before the mitzvah, as all mitzvahs are, unless it's an exception, based on the Gemara Pesachim Daf Vav, one should not get pleasure from the candles until after the bracha, and place her hand before the candles after lighting. Then say the bracha and afterward remove her hand. This is still considered over Las Yasin. Other poskim say that one should put her hands in front of her eyes. In other words, the idea over here is that there's a major discussion, which is really the main place where this is discussed in Sif Yud, is when does a person accept Shabbos? So the idea over here is that we accept Shabbos. There's a major discussion in Sif Yud about this. So if you're going to hold that you accept Shabbos or a woman would accept Shabbos when she recites the bracha, so if she recites the bracha, Lahadlik Ner Shel Shabbos, now she's not allowed to light afterwards because she already accepted Shabbos. Now others hold, there's a major discussion that we learned in Sif Yud, as we already pointed out, that it's when she actually physically lights, that's when she accepts Shabbos. Right after. So basically the idea is we try to cover all opinions over here, and therefore what she does over here in conclusion is that she should light, right, put her hands basically in front of her eyes. That's our custom. Put her hands in front of her eyes so that she can't see the light that she just lit, so to say. Say the bracha, and then after she removes her hands and she benefits from the light. This way, you get out of the whole problem because you lit before you recited the bracha. But on the other hand, you're saying the bracha before you're, so to say, getting pleasure from what you lit. So it's considered still that you said the bracha before you perform the mitzvah. Why then do women need to cover their eyes with their hands and close their eyes? Meaning, why do you need to do both? Right? Either just close your eyes and put your hands in between your eyes and what you're lighting over there. Then Yishai explains that one should close her eyes when she lights for Kabbalistic reasons. Some of the custom to circle their hands thrice. They do it 3 times before using their hands to cover their eyes. So they go like this 3 times. Interestingly enough, there's no source for this. Classic sources. Seemingly, this custom is actually halachically unfavorable. It's not preferable to do this because now you're going to be able to see the candles better in between your hands when you open it up. Probably you should say the bracha immediately after lighting and not get pleasure from the candles until after the bracha. Regarding this, the Rashba says that one shouldn't push off the tradition that women have, etc. This is a decree which is above our nature and understanding. So already in the times of Rishonim, they didn't like this custom, but you see that it was already done. And there's what to rely on because the Rashba basically says we don't necessarily understand why we do everything, and certain things we have traditions for, and we should keep it. And the question is better than the answer as to why women do this 3 times. Interestingly enough, there are different customs among Sephardi Jews. Some go like the Ramah, and they do what our Ashkenaz women do, which is they cover their eyes when they light. Others don't cover their eyes when they light, and they simply recite the bracha, and then they light. So, it's different customs among the Sephardim. Should women cover their eyes when they light on Yom Tov? This is a major discussion, which we discussed in the past. The Magen Avraham explains that if she recites the bracha, she will accept Shabbos, and Magen Avraham explains that if she recites the bracha, she will accept Shabbos, and it will be prohibited for her to light. Right? Like we said. So therefore, on Yom Tov, she could recite the bracha, and afterwards, she should light, since it's permissible to light on Yom Tov. And this is what the Drisha's mother says. This is in the Hagdama to the Ben Drisha Prisha on Your Deya, as we learned. This is quoted by the Magen Avraham. He made it famous over here. That Drisha's mother said that on Yom Tov, should switch it, even though you always do the eye covering. Nevertheless, on Yom Tov, you shouldn't do this. Right? On Yom Tov, rather, a person should do like what some Sephardim do, which is that they just say the bracha first, then they light. And the reason for this is because it's halachically preferable. Because then you get a full-fledged over Las and you are totally reciting the bracha before performing the mitzvah in completely. You need to worry that maybe you accepted Shabbos when you said the bracha, when that you accepted Yom Tov, but it's not a problem because Yom Tov you're allowed to light from pre-existing flame. Magen Avraham comments after he relates and quotes this opinion of the Drisha's mother, and he says, and I quote, "Ein chachma liisha," which literally translates, "Women don't have any wisdom." What does that mean over here? What the Magen Avraham is doing is he's attacking the Drisha's mother, and he's basically saying that no, look, the rabbis didn't differentiate, as is discussed in siman Kufn and Ches. Over there, Magen Avraham and Sivkot and Tezvav, the Mishnah Brew over there, they all talk about it. Shulchan Aruch, it's all over there. Taisus and Psachim. It's going to be Vavam and Beis. No, Zayin and Beis, excuse me. Which means that when the rabbi said something because of reason Aleph, even if that reason doesn't apply, nevertheless, we keep to what the rabbi said, keep to what they said. And therefore, we keep to this way of lighting, and Furthermore, you could get messed up, right? The machasis, right? We find this by other cases as well. Al Tesadayim we learned by saying a bracha when going to a mikvah. Bracha is always after because a ger, someone who's converting, couldn't say it before. All cases, you say the bracha after. Whole discussion of itself. Then the hilchos nida in your day over there is a shlah. But Machasis Shekel explains that all women will not know how to differentiate between Shabbos and Yom Tov. If we will say that on Yom Tov she should make the bracha and then light, she will come to do this on Shabbos as well. Which means even if just one time on Shabbos she messes up because she's used to what she did on Yom Tov, and she first recites the bracha and then lights, that could be a problem, potentially desecrating Shabbos, at least for Ashkenazim. For Ashkenaz women, siman 158 discusses Kufr and Ches Hilchos Nesilos Hadayim that we recite the bracha Valentes Hadayim after we wash our hands, before we dry our hands. The reason for this is sometimes our hands are unclean. For example, after we come out of the bathroom, and it's impossible to recite the bracha before we wash our hands because they are dirty. Rabbis therefore didn't differentiate and ruled that even if someone's hands are clean, you should not recite the bracha before washing his hands because of plug. The rabbis didn't differentiate. Tosfos explains that we don't. Okay. May we add in even so we recite the beracha before we dry our hands to try to still accomplish over the sun. In other words, it could be that the drying of the hands is part of the mitzvah. So therefore, we try to say the bracha, but we say the bracha before we dry our hands. Therefore, it's still considered as if we said the bracha before we did the mitzvah. The reason why this could be questioned from a technical perspective in Hilchos Netilas Yadayim is simply because the Gemara in Sota says whoever doesn't dry their hands after washing, it's as if they ate bread that was impure, lechem tameh. That only applies if you wash with a very small amount. But if you wash with a large amount, more than a revius, which certainly two revius, which certainly we do nowadays, then even if your hands are wet, you don't need to be concerned that they're going to be impure, the water that's on your hands after you wash, because it already washed off all the impure water. That being said, technically, one halachically wouldn't need to dry his hands. If that's so, then it wouldn't be considered that you said the bracha before the mitzvah because the drying is no longer part of the mitzvah. Even so, there's nothing to lose by doing this, and you can't say the bracha before you actually wash. So therefore, this is what we do, and this could certainly apply to someone who doesn't have a lot of water. So that basically is the discussion with the over lasyasan and with the drying of the hands. Certain places you don't need to dry your hands. If you're washing before you daven, mincha, ma'ariv, etc., you definitely don't need to dry your hands. The yinikiv is a ma'akiv. Certain places you do, my machronim you do, etc. Tosfos explains that we don't recite a bracha before we immerse in a mikvah because of the case of a convert. Someone isn't considered a convert until he gets circumcised and immerses in a mikvah. Obviously, the circumcision is only for a male, not a female. This is discussed in Yoredeya and siman Reish Samach Ches. Thus, a convert isn't able to recite the bracha on the mikvah before immersing because he isn't a Jew yet. How can he say the words Asher Kedishanu, etc., Vitzivanu? How could he say Asher Kedishanu, Vitzivanu, etc.? How could he say all that? You commanded us when he's not commanded to perform mitzvahs yet. Therefore, even a woman who is a nida should recite the bracha after immersing in the mikvah because of lo plug. The rabbis didn't differentiate. So therefore, this whole entire long rant over here, which is incredibly fascinating and educational from a Torah perspective, this entire thing is all attack on the Drisha's mother of the Magen Avram, based on how the Machasis Shekel and others explain the intention of the Magen Avram, saying that no, women should do this on Yom Tov as well, and they should not say the bracha first. What then would be the defense for the Drisha's mother? The Chassam Sofer defends the Drisha's mother by saying that on Chanukah, we first recite the bracha and then light. So we thus see that regarding the bracha and lighting in general, we see that there are differences between different. We see that there are differences, there are chalukim between different mitzvah lightings that we do. This is incomparable to washing our hands in the mikvah, where the brachas always have the same status regarding their placement. In other words, we don't find anywhere by washing that there's a difference with the brachas where they're placed. The truth is already alluded to by the Drisha's mother. If you look at the Drisha's mother, what she said inside in the introduction, the Hagdama to the Ben Drisha Prisha in your day over there, when she says that lighting on Yom Tov would be similar to lighting on Chanukah. So you see that the Drisha's mother herself already alluded to this. By the way, for those who don't know, the Drisha's mother was a very righteous woman who stayed in shul. She was very knowledgeable. She would say Tehillim, a very special woman. Don't think that, no, this is the Drisha's mother. She's very holy. The Dagam Ravava, another defense to the Drisha's mother, defends the Drisha's mother by saying that by mikvah and washing hands, the bracha is the same text. Al natilas yadayim, al hatfilo. Lighting differs in this regard because the text of the bracha is different. Since the text of the bracha is different, one won't come to make a mistake. This is why on Chanukah we recite the bracha before we light. So therefore, you see a difference in the text, right? On Chanukah, you're not going to mess up because we say Lahad B'Gner Shel Chanukah. On Yom Tov says the Dalgul Mervava, you're not going to mess up. Why? Lahad B'Gner Shel Yom Tov. It's a different text. You won't mess up. There's only a concern of low plug, and that the Chachamim didn't differentiate. That's only a situation of if the bracha is the same, then you might come to error. Mashenkin, conversely, in a situation where the text of the bracha is different, you won't come to make a mistake. He concludes by stating, this is what appears to me to rule like the Drisha's mother who is wise, aka defending from what the Magen Avram said, the Ein Chachma Leisha, women don't have any wisdom. He's saying, no, women have a lot of wisdom. And that's the Drisha's mother. So you see a little back and forth attack from the Magen Avram, defenses from the Chasam Sofer and the Dalgam Ravava. And can we defend the position of the Derisha's mother? Question mark. Line it up. This is gonna be defense number one, the Chasam Sofer for the Derisha's mother, and this is gonna be defense number two. And that's how you organize everything beautifully. This is the attack, that's the offense, this is the defense. At the end of the day, Mishnah Berurah quotes the Magen Avram's opinion, but rules like the Drisha's mother. Thus, according to the Mishnah Berurah on Yom Tov, women should first say the bracha and then light. Mishnah Berurah then says not to protest someone who goes like the Magen Avram. Not mistaken, that's what the Mishnah Berurah says over there. If you're going to go like the Magen Avram and do on Yom Tov what you do on Shabbos, don't protest that person. It should be pointed out, very important, this only applies to women. Men always say the bracha before they light, pretty much. So this is all specifically Ashkenaz women on Yom Tov what to do. Beautiful Torah. I'd highly recommend sharing this with your spouses. This is very interesting. At the end of the day, after you share this information, you could say, look, this decision is, of course, yours. I would recommend going like the Drisha's mother. However, if you don't want to, you don't have to, but this is what's halachically preferable. Furthermore, if you have a tradition going back for generations to do the same thing on Yom Tov that you do on Shabbos, then there's definitely what to rely on. You could do that as well, but this is going to be the general halacha, like we just said, just to show you the language of the Mishnah Berurah inside regarding this ruling, just to make sure that I didn't make a mistake regarding the protest. Down here, the Mishnah Berurah clearly says. in Chaf Vav, that's highlighted right over here. V'im came b'Yom Tov, the lo shayich zeh, l'kuli almo tavarach lachir chalah. Everyone agrees. You say the bracha, and then afterwards you lie. Das Magen Avram, the lo blog. Magen Avram holds you don't make a difference. You do the hand waving thing like what you do on Shabbos and Yom Tov. Aval harbi achronim sir lu kamosh savdim mitachila. But many achronim rule like what I said first. Okay, so he doesn't say not to protest, so I wrote that wrong. So get that out of there. The Mishnah Berurah says that Mishnah Berurah quotes the Magen Avram's opinion, but rules like the Drisha's mother. Right? That's exactly what he says. He doesn't say not to protest someone who does that. The Mishnah Berurah just quotes the opinion of the Magen Avram, who says you could do like what you do on Shabbos, but at the end does not rule that way. Clearly from his language of aval, which means but, which means I'm ruling, and then he says many achronim say the other way. So those achronim are who we just quoted, the Dagam Vavler, Rabbi Akiva Eiger comes with an answer, and others that we saw. So that is the ruling at the end of the day over there. Another major discussion in Sif A, which is very surprising for people who hear it the first time, including Talmidei Chachamim who never learned this area of halacha properly. You go up to any Talmud Chacham and you say, who gave your wife the heter to say shechiyanu when she lights on Yom Tov? Who said that she's allowed to? So what do you mean? Of course, that's what you say. No, it's not supposed to be there. You say, where are you coming from? You go back and you explain the whole thing. It is not simple for a woman to say shechiyanu when she lights on Yom Tov. Why then do they do that? Let's continue. Igros Moshe, Shilos and Shuvas, Chelik Dalit, Siman Kuf Aleph, Os Aleph, Moshe Feinstein. Excuse me. Moshe Feinstein says that a woman who recites the bracha of shechiyanu on Yom Tov when she lights is allowed to answer Amen when her husband says shechiyanu during Kiddush. In other words, she's fulfilling her obligation with her husband's Kiddush. Her listening is like answering. And therefore, the question becomes, how could she listen to something that she already fulfilled her obligation with? It's an interruption in the Kiddush that she's fulfilling her obligation from. Moshe says it's not an interruption. We'll see why momentarily. Women have been saying shechiyanu when they light on Yom Tov for hundreds of years. Even though it would be better for women not to say shechiyanu when they light, since there's shechiyanu during Kiddush. You clearly see Moshe Feinstein Zatzal himself says that women should not light. Women should not say shechiyanu. It's better for them not to say shechiyanu when they light. They've been doing it for hundreds of years, better than for them not to. Yabet says that he wanted to rebuke his wife for saying shechiyanu when lighting during Yom Tov. He didn't rebuke her since it is a custom that is in her hands. They all quote the Shilos and Tshuva Shelas Yabetz, which we saw inside already. Rabbi Yaakov Emden Ben Tzvi wanted to give major rebuke to his wife for saying Shechiyan Yom Tov. And he couldn't even stop his own rabbits and his own wife. If a woman answering Amen to her husband Shechiyanu during Kiddush is considered an interruption, then the Yabet certainly would have rebuked his wife. That's Reb Moshe's way of concluding that the Shechiyanu is not an interruption. From the fact that the Yabet didn't give a full-fledged rebuke to his wife. Not answering Amen is not an option. Let's say you say the woman just won't answer Amen. Because Allah is that someone who hears a bracha must answer Amen. The reason why this isn't an interruption is since the Shechiyanu during Kiddush is an interruption for the Makadesh, the person making Kiddush, it isn't an interruption for the people listening to Kiddush. Which this itself needs a major explanation why this is so. We understand for the person making Kiddush not an interruption, he needs a Shechiyanu. The other people, they already heard it. So this idea, this logic that Moshe Feinstein is using, I would say is a little difficult to understand, more than a lot of times other logics that he uses, and requires further research. Or Chashulchan says that we shouldn't protest women who say shechiyanu on Yom Tov because most times they light near the time of dark, and shechiyanu covers the Yom Tov. What is this? And shechiyanu covers the Yom Tov? Okay, I mean, it's covering Yom Tov, but it's still extra. The real shechiyanu is in Kiddush, so there's what to look into on that Aruch HaShulchan. Ratzi Pesach Frank explains that someone who said shechiyanu when lighting candles should not say no shechiyanu Kiddush. Logically, based on this Aruch HaShulchan, that since the shechiyanu recited during candle lighting was close to Yom Tov, it will cover the shechiyanu for Yom Tov. Okay, Ber Halacha points out that some hold that women who have the custom to say shechiyanu the second night of Yom Tov should first say the beracha lahadlik ne'er shel Yom Tov, then light the candles and they say shechiyanu. This is not the Ber Halacha. This is the Biru Halacha. The Biru Halacha, Ravad Yosef's son, had a big piece on this that we saw inside. Major rant also. And we have to just take a step back and analyze something over here. If she's going to say shechiyanu after the bracha, then what's going to happen? It's an interruption.
For lighting?
Let's say, for example, you're going to go the Drisha's mother way, the way of the Drisha's mother, whereas many Sephardi women go. You're saying the bracha, you didn't light yet, now you say shechiyanu. Shechiyanu shouldn't be there, it's an interruption.
Why, just like by Hanukkah things?
Hanukkah, it's supposed to be there, the shechiyanu. The shechiyanu is established to be there. Shechiyanu and Yom Tov isn't established to be there, it's supposed to be in Kiddush. So therefore, according to the Bir Halacha, what you should do is you should say light, then say the shechiyanu. Major point. The reason for this is since the beracha of shechiyanu isn't from the letter of the law, it can be considered an interruption between the beracha of Yom Tov and the lighting of the candles. It is even more correct not to say the beracha of shechiyanu at all during Yom Tov candle lighting. The reason for this is the beracha of shechiyanu was established to be said on the actual Yom Tov and to be said during Kiddush. Or Zarua quotes the Yerushalmi that says one doesn't need to say shechiyanu when lighting candles on Yom Tov. Already in the time of the Or Zarua, he said, stay away from it. The reason for all of this, as stated above, is that the beracha of shechiyanu on Yom Tov should be said during Kiddush, not during lighting. Not during lighting. Nevertheless, if shechiyanu is said during candle lighting, it would not be considered a beracha in vain, because shechiyanu could be said even in the marketplace. Shelas Yabetz says that there are some places where women have the custom to say shechiyanu when lighting candles on Yom Tov that says no basis in halachas. Words are super duper strong. This is not mentioned by any posek other than the Kitzur Shlo. But other than that, that's the other. This would not be better than the potential shechiyanu we would need to make when we build the sukkah. We don't say shechiyanu because we rely on the shechiyanu. We say during Kiddush to cover the potential shechiyanu we should have made when we built the sukkah, as we learned in Hilchos Sukkah. He then says that he wanted to protest his wife but didn't, etc. There's no concern of a bracha in vain. Others say that someone who says shechiyanu when lighting can do so after the bracha of lahadlik ner shel Yom Tov before lighting. So others argue on that ruling that we said before. You could even say the shechiyanu before lighting. Or Letzion explains that this wouldn't be considered an interruption because the beracha of shechiyanu has to do with lighting the candles, which is in honor of Yom Tov. Yom Tov. Joseph only says that saying shechiyanu when lighting Yom Tov candles is a mistake. Shilos and Tshuva's Tshuva Ma'ava relates that a woman, you can see all the footnotes, you can get the source down there, say that a woman who says shechiyanu when she lights must be careful not to say shechiyanu again during the Seder when she says Kiddush. How many women mess this up, fellas? You got women saying shechiyanu when they light first days of Pesach, and then they just follow the Haggadah. They say shechiyanu again.
You're
Not,
like that?
yeah. Why would you're not allowed to say shechiyanu twice? Shechiyanu's on one Yom Tov.
I hear it.
Shechiyanu's on the Shechiyanu's on the Yom Tov. She can't say shechiyanu again during Kiddush at the Seder.
Right, so why can you say the second night?
Second night also. What do you mean? She said we our women do say shechiyanu on the second night. Sveika
Which
diyoim.
same, isn't that the same not it's not the same yantif?
It's a shechiyanu on the Seder, on the
We say shechiyanu on the Seder the second night, correct?
things.
Yeah.
Yeah. By Kiddush, we say it again.
We say it again, right?
Same thing like by
Women-
Sukkot, same thing like by Shabbos.
Yeah. So women say it when they light.
So why can't you say
I
the
think, if I'm not
shechiyanu is going
mistaken.
on the mitzvahs Lil Seder?
There's no shechiyanu that was established to be said on the Seder. And if it was, then it's the one that you say on the actual Yom Tov. You don't say shechiyanu twice.
Shilas.
Charles Tshuva Ma'ava. He's just pointing something out. He's just pointing out the obvious. Just like we learned that a woman, right? If a woman we just saw above, if she's making her own kiddush, she lives by herself, and she already said shechiyanu when she lied, she wouldn't say it again when she makes kiddush. Same thing over here. She wouldn't say it again. Got to be careful. Tell the women this. I think they actually print this in many Haggadahs. They make this point.
Do that?
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. Because I'm a pretty big student of the Haggadah. They do so. The stipler wouldn't say shechiyanu when he lit candles as a widower. Okay, for a male, for sure you're not going to light. Stipler didn't. Many achronim relate the custom of saying shechiyanu when lighting candles on Rosh Hashanah. They relate that on the second night of Rosh Hashanah, one should put a new fruit or wear new expensive clothing and have the fruit or the clothing in mind when reciting the shechiyanu during candle lighting. Shilas V'Tshuva Zeda Emes says that there are different customs regarding saying shechiyanu during candle lighting, and one can do whatever she wants. Many achronim say that women can say shechiyanu when they light on Yom Tov.
Maybe back for a little bit.
What'd you say?
Yes.
I don't know what to do.
Sorry.
I'm just asking.
So at the end of the day, it's better not to say the shechiyanu for the 95% of people who are watching this right now. I don't know how many it will be, but if you're still with us, and this is what your wife does, this is what to rely on. I personally told my wife gently, better not to. There's really no point. She said, "Don't try to take that shechiyanu away from me."
Ouch.
Yeah, ouchie. But I don't know. The women like it for some reason. I don't know. If I was a woman and I was lighting, I'd stop doing it after learning this.
This is really is this really a Hilchos Shabbos or Hilchos Shechiyanu?
This is we're learning the halachas of lighting on Shabbos, and it comes up over here. They talk about it. This is the place where it comes up. Their halacha relates that a woman who makes a condition when she lights that she isn't accepting Shabbos on herself when she lights, or a man who never accepts Shabbos on himself when he lights, should first say the beracha and then light. In other words, the covering of the eyes should not be done. This is how the Be'er Halacha rules. It's also the ruling Rabbi Akiva Eiger and Chayadim Derech Chaim argues and says to cover the eyes. Sorry, Derech Chaim argues that to cover the eyes. Mr. Bruce says that one does not need to say shechiyanu ever in a... Okay, this is in the wrong location. So this is going to get cut, and it's going to go right here. This doesn't belong in the shechiyanu section. It belongs in this section. And that whole thing, just going back to what we said before about covering your eyes or not. So the idea over there is that's only the general halacha for women. A woman who's accepting Shabbos upon herself when she lights, which she usually does unless it's a pressing situation, or a man who lights. Man who lights would never do the whole hand thing over here. So that's that point over there. One does not need to say shechiyanu. However, in a place where they have the custom to say shechiyanu, one should not protest. Right, so you don't need to say shechiyanu. There's the ruling of the Abbates, but it isn't worded as harshly, right? Which means the Mishnah Berurah is softening up what the Abbate says. Basically, better not to say shechiyanu, but if they do it, don't protest. Here's where I got the protest thing confused. You know, I don't think mentioning something is considered a protest. You know, protest is saying is more demanding.
Oh,
Well, yeah, just mentioning something, you know, food for thought to think about if you were interested. I don't know, but
gently suggest.
gently suggest. Unsure if a bracha was said when lighting. The Ber Halacha relates that if one isn't sure if she said a bracha, she does not need to make another bracha because safek brachas laka, one could be lenient on a doubt of a bracha. Furthermore, we assume that she did what she's used to, aka saying a bracha. If she knows that she didn't say a bracha, and she can be lenient and say a bracha as long as it's permissible time to light. So that's if she knows she didn't say bracha, she could. Miscellaneous. Mishnah Berurah says that the bracha of Lahadlik Ner Shel Shabbos is in the singular tense, even when many candles are being lit. Some have a custom to say a bracha silently. One's family members do not need to hear the bracha. There's a custom to light the candles after showering and wearing Shabbos clothing. There's a custom to give charity. One should hold the match with the right hand, which is a stronger hand. Start lighting the candles on the right side. Do not verbally interrupt once you begin lighting the candles until the bracha is recited. That's for women, of course. For men, you don't interrupt until after everything's lit. After the bracha, some have the custom to say different prayers. The custom is not to say shechiyanu the first time one lights. However, some try to get an expensive garment or new food and recite the bracha of shechiyanu after the bracha on the Shabbos candles or beforehand, and have in mind to cover the food/clothing and Shabbos candles. One should preferably be careful to juxtapose the bracha to lighting as much as possible and not interrupt from the beginning of the lighting until after the bracha. If she did interrupt, she's allowed to say the bracha, even if the interruption was after the completion of the lighting. Kaf HaChaim rules that those who say the bracha before lighting must say the bracha again if they interrupted in between the bracha and lighting. Also, there's a custom to give charity that should be done before lighting. That's if hey. We're going to continue with the review we left off last time. Continue siman reisha amud gimel sif vav. Traveling. Mishnah Berurah says that people who are traveling and away from their wife must light candles for Shabbos with a bracha. So if you're traveling on a business trip, you have to light with a bracha there. He might light. He must light where he is sleeping, not eating. Okay. Mishnah Berurah quotes Derech Chaim, who says that the candles need to be long enough that they will last until he returns home. Person's going out, make sure they're long enough. There's enough oil in there for that there'll still be a flame when you return home. If they don't last until then, and he recited a bracha of atala. This is no joke. Bracha in vain. One of the Talmidim in a yeshiva or a seminary must light candles in the cafeteria for everyone else. A lot of times people don't realize in the yeshiva and a seminary, someone has to light. It's very important.
Now, what about if you're staying by, like, not with your wife, but you're staying by friends or family?
If you're staying there, they can light on your behalf.
They can light it there.
That's fine. Hotels. Sivches. A woman who is staying in a hotel should light in an area where everyone will see the candles during the meal and get pleasure from them and the additional light that they provide. Some hotels designate a random corner in a random room to light. It's in the middle of nowhere. People who light in such a location recite a bracha in vain. It's a bracha livatala. However, the reason why this is so, a lot of typos here, is because there's no purpose for these candles and no one gets pleasure from them. This certainly applies nowadays that we have electricity. If this is the only place you're allowed to light in a hotel, listen very carefully. Women should turn on the lights in the hotel room in honor of Shabbos, where they're staying, their personal room, and then swiftly walk to the place that is designated to light candles and light there with a bracha. In other words, you have in mind when you flick the switch, the electricity, that that is part of your lighting candle, so to say. You're going to benefit from that light in your hotel room, and try not to dilly-dally. You walk down immediately, and then you say the bracha, and it will cover everything, including the electricity. Since this would no longer be a bracha in vain, this would no longer be a bracha in vain if the candles are in a random corner, even if the candles are in a random corner, since her bracha also refers to the electricity. If she wants to and is allowed to light in her hotel room, she may do so if she eats in the room or if she turns on the electricity before lighting, then immediately lights.
Now, these don't have to be incandescent.
So it should be pointed out this would probably only work if it's incandescent. If it's not incandescent, it would also probably still work. If it's not, because the truth is you're saying the bracha on an actual fire. It's just that it's not in the right location. So you're just doing something extra to try to cover all bases. But if you don't do it, it's really a shaila if it's permissible. And if it's possible to light in a better area, then you should. It's really worth making a big deal about this with the
No, it doesn't matter if
with
the
the higher ups in the hotel. Yeah.
doesn't matter if the light's in the bathroom, right? Technically, it's just has to be a light.
Yes. Yeah. I was thinking the bathroom. I was hoping that you weren't going to ask it. You did. The question is, could you say a bracha on a light in a bathroom? If in other words, to really strengthen this, is it permissible to say a bracha if you have an incandescent light bulb and it's just in the bathroom? I don't know. I don't know.
Well, here it might be
seems
different because
probably not
the shalom-
preferable.
But maybe it's a shalom bias issue, maybe because you're getting the rays of the light outside the bathroom.
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I don't think it's so simple to do. Over here, it's the Rev the Milsa. Anyways, you're just doing it to get the cherry on
Right,
the
but in the
cake.
hotel rooms, let's say, that you don't want the light on.
Right, correct,
Unless you
correct.
have one of those Shabbos.
Unless you have, as soon as you walk in, it's a small light. It won't disturb where you're sleeping,
Or you have
which
Shabbos-
they have a lot of
you
times.
have
Or a small
Shabbos lamp.
Shabbos lamp type of thing, right? Right. You can maybe you could do something. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we learned also this could work also, like, if you're eating out somewhere, right? You should have in mind, have in mind the electricity.
But we're going to come back
We'll
to
come back to it.
electricity more. That's a whole discussion in general of, that's going to be the next step. So we'll do it right now. Let's get to electricity. How long do candles need to be lit for? Shulchan Aruch says that someone who lights candles in a corner of his house and eats in his yard has recited a bracha in vain if the candles don't last until nighttime. So we see over here that they need to last until after 3 stars come out. This is important for people who make early Shabbos. It doesn't last, then that's another halachic issue that you could add to the long list there. Magen Avram says that it is implied that if he eats in the, what is this? This would be permissible even if the candles do not remain lit until the night. If he eats in the, there's a mistake. If he eats in the yard. Magen Avram says it's implied if he eats in the yard, this will be permissible even if the candles do not remain lit until night. Mishnah Berurah points out that it is only permissible to eat in the yard if someone is in a lot of pain in the house. For example, if there are flies. This isn't the case. It needs to eat specifically where he lit. Okay. Nowadays, correct to turn on the light immediately before lighting Shabbos candles and intend the bracha to cover the electricity as well. All right. So this is what a lot of great achronim say to do. Turn on the electricity right before you light. Have in mind this is going to count in honor of Shabbos. Then you light and you bracha and you go through the process. The reason is because you are going to benefit from the light this way, because we don't benefit so much from the actual fire that we light, from the candles, the oil. So therefore, you get this. Do we need to? That goes to the next question. Do we need to light nowadays that we have electricity? Nowadays, we have a lot of light from electricity. Someone who lights candles or wicks connected to oil doesn't add much light. Shagar b'tihar ma'im mahani, like the Gemara says. If you're going to light when it's still day, how exactly will that help? It's not going to produce so much more light. Nevertheless, we still recite a bracha when we light Shabbos candles. Okay. How can we recite a bracha in such a case? Why are we lighting nowadays? We have electricity. Shmir Shabbos Kilchasa says that it is fitting for a woman to light the Shabbos candle / wicks connected to the oil, and then afterwards one of the family members or a timer turn on the light switch, or that she should turn on the light switch before lighting and then light, and have in mind that the bracha will cover the electric lights as well, as we said. However, the custom nowadays is to recite a bracha even when the lights are on, and this wasn't done. Shlomo Zalman Auerbach explains that even in this situation, you could still recite a bracha if you're not doing the electricity right before turning it on. The reason for this is since all women who are married are stringent about this mitzvah, aka lighting, it is possible that the mitzvah of lighting Shabbos candles became an important custom to light and add candles for the sake of mitzvah and to recite a bracha on them, just like we recite a bracha on lighting the menorah in shul. Long sentence. In other words, this is a strong custom, and we keep it. We recite a bracha on the menorah in shul on Chanukah, even according to those who hold that we don't recite a bracha on Halal on Rosh Chodesh. It's a minhag, which we learned about. Hilchos Rosh Chodesh and Hilchos Halal over there. We still say bracha on the menorah in shul on Chanukah. This requires more research. This is one reason why we say a bracha, even though we like electricity nowadays. Moshe Feinstein explains that lighting on Shabbos demonstrates near Shabbos that we honor Shabbos. Lighting near Shabbos is an obligation on our body, chovas haguf. We're therefore able to recite a bracha. Furthermore, even when the room is light from electric lights, nevertheless, lighting near Shabbos still adds light, adds to the ambiance. There are many different types of electric lights, and their colors differ. Thus, lighting near Shabbos adds to the honor of Shabbos. This is why it's preferable for a woman to turn on the light switch. If it was on, she should turn it off and then on before lighting Ner Shabbos. One should then immediately light Ner Shabbos and have in mind that the bracha should also cover the electric lights. In other words, this is a major topic, and this is a major discussion of itself. I'm going to try to redo this, take 30 seconds, put some numbers and bullet points for I think there's around 3-4 reasons in here. Seems like why we light nowadays, that we have electricity. This is an important idea to keep in mind, important understanding, and preferably if one is capable of doing this with the lights, they should do so, preferably, to turn them on and then immediately light. So we'll continue with this review tomorrow. Questions, comments? Didn't do that much halacha today, so okay. So tomorrow we will finish this review. Everyone should have a wonderful day, meaningful fast. Yeah.
Anyways,
We now continue with our review where we left off last session. Last session we left off, we were talking about do we need to light nowadays that we have electricity, and now we begin with the important sif in siman reisha mach gimel sif yod. When do we accept Shabbos? This is a subject to a major discussion. Torah relates that the Bahag holds that one accepts Shabbos during lighting. When lighting. Even though this line might not be the most grammatically correct line, nevertheless, it's when lighting. It's the etzem habaka, the actual physical act of lighting. This is why one must light the menorah on Chanukah before lighting Shabbos. Before lighting for Shabbos. Before lighting for Shabbos. And the reason is because if you're going to light for Shabbos, someone who lights for Shabbos first won't be able to light the menorah afterwards because you accept Shabbos when you light according to the Bahag. Taisva says that one doesn't accept Shabbos when lighting, rather Shabbos is accepted during Mariv. So we have a fabulous machloikis rishonim. We have a tremendous argument over here. According to the Bahag, you accept Shabbos when you light. According to Taisva, it's when you daven Mariv. Shulchan Aruch quotes this Bahag and then quotes the Shibuli Halekid, who says that women have the custom after they recite the bracha and light to, quote, throw the match on the floor and not extinguish it. And the reason for this is because once they say the bracha and light, now you can't extinguish the match because you already accepted Shabbos on yourself. During this match discussion, look at footnote 68. It's clear from the Shulchan Aruch that one should first recite the bracha and then light. This is not like the Ramah in Sif 5, Sif Hey that we learned who said to first light, then cover the candles or one's eyes or both, and then recite the bracha. However, according to the Kaf HaChaim, the language of the Shulchan Aruch isn't specific and the bracha is after lighting. In other words, first of all, this idea of the Shibbolei Halek only applies to the Svardim who have the custom like the Shulchan Aruch and say the bracha before they light, and say the bracha before we light. We don't have this custom, Ashkenazim. Furthermore, the Kaf HaChaim points out that the Shulchan Aruch isn't even specific, and it could be that the Shulchan Aruch might even hold over here to say the bracha after you light, which is a tremendous insight in Chiddush, and some Svardim actually go like that, where they go like the Ashkenazim, and first light, then say the bracha, and etc. That whole process over there. But hold on, let's continue over here. There's a very important footnote over here. I just don't want to get lost in the length of this footnote. So we're going to come back to this footnote momentarily. A very important footnote regarding the match. Shulchan Aruch then quotes Rabbi Meir of Rutenberg and the Mordechai who hold that one can make a condition before lighting. We're going to come back to the match. One could make a condition before lighting, saying that Shabbos will not be accepted with this lighting until Baruch Hu is said at Shul. So in other words, within the opinion of Tosfos, the Mordechai, the Meir Rutenberg, they say that you could make a condition not to accept Shabbos until Baruch Hu is said at Shul. This could be, this is actually even within the opinion of the Bahag, right?
But
This
Baruch
is
Hu is
even within
after
the
Shkia.
Bahag who said that you accept Shabbos when you light. You could actually make a condition not to do so. Shulchan Aruch, however, quotes the Kolbo, who holds that this condition doesn't work. So you have an argument if you could make a condition or not. Shulchan Aruch then quotes Tosfos on the Rosh Hashanah that Shabbos only accepted during Mariv, which you really already said above. Saying Mizmor Shir nowadays is like saying Baruch Hu in their day. So it used to be, according to Tosfos, you accept Shabbos during Baruch Hu. Now we accept, according to Tosfos, during Mizmor Shir. Ramah rules, and this is the part in bold because this is the part that applies and is halacha l'maisa for us. Ramah rules that the custom is women who light accept Shabbos unless they make a condition that they will not be accepting Shabbos with their lighting. One could even mentally make a condition. One doesn't need to verbalize this. The other people in the house are allowed to do muksa until Baruch Hu, or anything that you're not allowed to do on Shabbos. So why does the Ramah say Baruch Hu and not Mizmor L'Shir? It's a question on the Ramah. We didn't see an answer to that. The Mogen Avram quotes Bach, who rules that men do not accept Shabbos upon themselves when they light. So this is very important. This is the difference between men and women. Men do not accept Shabbos when they light. Nevertheless, men should still make a condition that they won't accept Shabbos upon themselves when they light. So even though we, if we would light, wouldn't accept Shabbos, we should still make this condition. Furthermore, a very important Magen Avram over here, we'll see in a moment. Magen Avram rules that women should daven mincha before lighting. The reason for this is once she lights, she accepts Shabbos and thus cannot daven a weekday mincha from the previous day. Tilo David says that it is correct for a man who will be lighting to daven before he lights, even though he doesn't accept Shabbos on himself when he lights. Very important halacha for a man. People might not realize if you're going to light, it's better to daven mincha earlier. Magen Avram rules that a woman should only make a condition not to accept Shabbos when she lights if she needs to, aka in a pressing situation. The reason for this is some hold that making a condition wouldn't work. So this is a very important point regarding the making of the condition. Okay? From the words of the Shulchan Aruch, it's implied that the Bahag holds that accepting Shabbos is dependent upon actual lighting. However, there are more in Sif 5, Sif Hey rules that accepting Shabbos is dependent upon the bracha that is made during lighting. Ramah therefore rules to recite the bracha after lighting because if the bracha is made before lighting, it will be prohibited to light. Interestingly, according to the Gra in his commentary to Sif Hey, the Bahag holds that accepting Shabbos is dependent upon the bracha. Kitzur Shulchan Aruch says that the bracha is the beginning of the lighting process. Maybe that could be the explanation. It's a very strong question on the Vilna Gaon, how he understands that Bahag, which is not the simple explanation. Many others hold this way as well. It is interesting that this opinion isn't officially mentioned in the Shulchan Aruch in this sif, meaning this opinion to do the eye covering and everything like that. That opinion isn't mentioned. David, did you have questions?
Yeah, let's see. A couple questions. First of all, the when a man has
Shulchan Aruch quoted the Bahag and the Shibbolei Haleket, who says that some women have a custom after they recite the bracha and light that they throw the match on the floor not to extinguish it. So take a look at the footnote over here. According to those who say that one accepts Shabbos during the lighting, aka the Bahab, it makes sense why one isn't allowed to extinguish the match. However, according to those who say that one accepts Shabbos during the bracha, why would it be prohibited to extinguish the match after lighting and before reciting the bracha? According to Ashkenazim, who follow the Ramah, women first light, then cover their eyes, and then say the bracha. Why would it be a problem to extinguish the match? I'll tell you why. But first, this is why the Aruch HaShulchan says it's complete. This is why the Aruch HaShulchan is completely lenient and rules that women who say the bracha after lighting are allowed to extinguish the match. He also says that it appears that this is the custom. So this is the Aruch HaShulchan over here. Right? So this is the minhag. And that's the Aruch HaShulchan. Many others say that preferably you shouldn't do this, like we're going to learn about now. Shulchan Aruch only says that one shouldn't extinguish the match because he is going according to the opinion that one accepts Shabbos during the actual lighting. This is why, according to the Shulchan Aruch, one is allowed to recite the bracha before lighting. Thus, according to the Shulchan Aruch, one shouldn't extinguish the match because after lighting, Shabbos was accepted. Others have a completely different approach. This is the approach of the Aruch HaShulchan. This entire section, completely lenient. For Ashkenaz women, they could extinguish the match. Others have a completely different approach. The Ben Ish Chai in Parshas Noach says that even according to the opinions who say that the bracha should be after lighting, one should not extinguish the match. The reason for this is based on the Shulchan Aruch Harav understands the Ramah. The Shulchan Aruch Harav explains that according to the Ramah, one accepts Shabbos while actually lighting. However, we are still concerned about the opinions who say that one accepts Shabbos when the bracha of V'hadlik Ner Shel Shabbos is said. Meaning, even if we're going to go like the Bahab, we are still concerned that maybe perhaps we accept Shabbos when we say the actual bracha. Others have a completely different approach to this. Sorry, we just said that. Thus, even according to our custom of women first lighting, then covering their eyes, and then saying the bracha, women should not extinguish the match. So this is one reason why our women should not extinguish the match. Again, just to summarize that, the Ramah says it could be that we hold that you accept Shabbos with the bracha. That's why. Another reason why Ashkenaz women should not extinguish the match is because it is considered an interruption between the lighting and the bracha. That's what the Divrei Yotzev wants to say. Okay? Now, tangentially, parenthetically, the Beis Yosef holds that it's permissible to light all of the candles because they are all considered one. Meaning a woman only accepts Shabbos when all the candles are lit. However, extinguishing the match isn't part of the lighting process. Another point is women have to be careful not to extinguish a match on Yom Tov as well. There's a concern regarding women who typically extinguish the match on Shabbos that they might inadvertently extinguish it on Yom Tov. Guess what? They'd be violating Yom Tov. You're not allowed to extinguish. This is another reason why women should be stringent and not extinguish the match on Shabbos. Because they might come to do it on Yom Tov. They also have to be careful. Women have to be very careful not to move the match or the stucco box they put the charity in after they light. That's all be done before. This is very relevant. I mean, the relevance of this cannot be overestimated. Any questions on this section? Does everyone accept Shabbos with the father of the house or mother? Pri Megadim says that other people in the house do not accept Shabbos with the woman of the house when she lights. However, accepting Shabbos by Mariv is more stringent. When the father davens Mariv, everyone in the house accepts Shabbos. Similarly, Charles Chuvas Shivat Alevi holds when the father accepts Shabbos, everyone in the house accepts Shabbos. This is why women need to light before their husband davens Mariv. Torres Chaim argues and says that the other people in the house do not accept Shabbos when the father davens Mariv. Similarly, Moshe Feinstein in the Shal Shuvas Igros Moshe rules that a woman does not get dragged after when her husband accepts Shabbos. It's not quoted over here, but we already learned it has to be added over here. I'll make a mental note. The Charles Chuvas Van Huggers and Moshe Sternbach says that actually Ramosha we learned goes into it a little bit more in terms of when they accept Shabbos. I don't know if I wrote it later on. No, I didn't type it yet. So Moshe goes into a little bit more and he discusses exactly why they're making an earlier Shabbos. Is it for convenience reasons or is it for reasons that you hold that halachically it's better and could be a difference? But Moshe Sternbach concludes that she must light before the husband comes home because the husband cannot go enter into a house when they still are in weekday mode and didn't accept Shabbos and he already accepted Shabbos. It's not appropriate. Okay, let's talk a little bit about Mincha after lighting. We already touched upon it. Mishnah Berurah rules that a woman should have a Mincha before lighting candles. The reason for this is when she says Shabbos, when she lights, she'll be unable to daven Mincha afterwards. If she doesn't have any time, then it's better for her to daven Ma'ariv twice. Just the Mishnah Berurah says a lot of ink has been used to explain this Mishnah Berurah. We already know women are obligated to daven Mincha, as we learned in Siman Kuvav. Come back to that Mishnah Berurah momentarily. Tehillah David says that the same halacha applies to a man who lights. Even though men may do malacha after and muksa after lighting, nevertheless it's correct for them to have a mincha first. So a man, if he's gonna light, he could hop in the car, he could do all that, but they should still daven mincha first. The Mishnah Berurah explains it is implied from the Mishnah Berurah that after lighting candles, there's no way to daven mincha. She therefore needs to daven Ma'ariv twice. However, Kaf HaChaim holds that in this situation, she should make a condition that she will not accept Shabbos when she lights, in order that she can daven mincha afterwards. See Orchos Chaim, who writes that she's able to daven, it is implied that she could daven mincha even if she didn't make a condition. There's a whole discussion on this Mishnah Berurah over here, who says that if she didn't daven mincha yet, that if she doesn't have time, it's better for her to light and then daven twice. It's a major discussion what exact case the Mishnah Berurah was talking about. Others argue, at the end of the day, be very careful not to get in the situation and try to leave ample time. Foresee that Shabbos is coming and plan accordingly. Be responsible, wake up earlier so you don't get in the situation. Start your day earlier, the preparation, everything you got to do. What about eating and drinking? This is a very common shaila that comes up when it comes to women and lighting. Eating and drinking after lighting. Mishnah Berurah rules like the Magen Avram, who says that a woman should only make a condition not to accept Shabbos if needed. Since some hold that make a condition not to accept Shabbos won't even work. Based on that introduction, the Kisois HaShulchan says that a woman who wants to drink but must now light due to timing may make a condition that she isn't accepting Shabbos when she lights. Without making a condition, she wouldn't be able to eat or drink after lighting because she is not allowed to eat and drink before Kiddush, of course. This is considered, quote, a place of need. However, Pri Yitzchak says that in a pressing situation, she could taste something after lighting, even without making condition not to accept Shabbos when she lights, even without a condition. Nevertheless, once everyone accepts Shabbos in shul, she may not eat or drink. So this question, if you ever hear it, a woman asking it, can I eat or drink after I light? First of all, there's a discussion. Some say only if you made a condition. Second of all, when did she want to eat or drink? If she already wants to do it half an hour after lighting, when they're already in Ma'ariv and Shul, she cannot do it. It's too late. She can only do it before they daven Ma'ariv. A woman who says shechiyanu when she lights candles on Yom Tov may not eat or drink after. Since she said shechiyanu, she may not make a condition not to accept Yom Tov. So this is another reason, another con for women saying shechiyanu. Right? We discussed that topic in length already. But if she says shechiyanu on Yom Tov, when she lied, she accepted Yom Tov, and therefore she cannot eat or drink before Kiddush. So this whole discussion of eating or drinking would only be a discussion if she's not saying shechiyanu, aka Shabbos, or she just doesn't say shechiyanu when she lights, which, as we learned, would seemingly be preferable. Piskei Tshuva says it is unclear what for a need means. Does this refer to something urgent that is needed for Shabbos, for example, showering, or other urgent Shabbos preparations, or other mitzvahs, or even something else that's not a mitzvah? Someone who's lenient has who to rely on, especially in a case of sickness or weakness. For example, he says, if you want to light, you're staying in the hotel area in Yerushalayim, making something up, King David, the Imbal, and you don't want to walk to the Kaisa. Making condition not to accept Shabbos is what to rely on. Since our custom nowadays is to, does extinguished candles or oil need to be relit? Since our custom nowadays is to recite the beracha after lighting, therefore, as long as the woman didn't begin saying the beracha, she didn't accept Shabbos. Therefore, those who have the custom to extinguish the match and personally light the Shabbos candle / oil that extinguish have who to rely on. And this is where we also learned in the second half of Sif Yud the discussion of Kaftein Zakukla, of Habaka is a mitzvah, that lighting is a mitzvah. So a person has to light in a location which it would be able to continue being lit and stay aflame, and there would be enough in there to last going into nighttime, etc. Any questions on anything on this review? We spent already multiple sessions on it. Do you think we missed any points? I think it's a good first. This is the majority of the siman. To wrap up the siman, this is the majority. Nothing?
What's with that?
I don't think so, no.
No? Okay.
The Mechaber said, this bush, I forgot about that.
Yeah.